I doubt there will be bankruptcy as such because of the drop in oil prices. If you ask me at the time of the crisis, for example, 2008, 2009, I would tell you anybody dealing on the investment side, like shares, would definitely be affected because of the market conditions, especially if you are going for long-term, borrowing against short-term financing of assets. But when you say the oil sector to be bankrupt, I think there will be shrinking in some of the business, some of the companies are doing. But the oil is still going to be produced, and the barrels of oil are going to be produced daily.
So
and
what do you think is going to be
it will affect
risk?
your budget at the end of the day, and the expenditures also on the government. The expenditures in terms of the salaries, the increases, extra projects maybe that have been in the plan for certain education or certain maybe hospitals, this could be trimmed or postponed until they see the picture in the future, of course. And we are waiting to see also many sayings or many of the publications coming or declarations coming out from the government. The banking sector, you have seen in the past, no bank in Kuwait has fallen. I mean, look into history. Let's start with the Souk al-Manakh in the 80s. And then that was I was just starting my career in Kuwait at that time, in 84, end of the year. And I saw people talking about Souk al-Manakh. It's a big credit kind of bailout program. And it was not huge in size, but it took place, and the central bank was there with the government. Then invasion took place of Kuwait, and you didn't see any country in the world just take it and then resume back to normal. The central bank came in with the government, and they issued the bonds for nearly $5 billion at that time, and they bought all the portfolio, which was considered, technically speaking, non-performing loans for the corporate side and the individual customers. And again, the banks have gone through that program for 20 years. Everybody has come out of it safely. Even prepayments took place by some of the customers. So the government, central bank, the system has never allowed a failure of a bank or a failure of a system. Another local bank had certain issues. The government stepped in, and it can happen to any other Kuwaiti bank. But of course, more corporate governance are there, more, we can say, overlooking that people use not to see the choices of the board members, the decision-making, the compliance issues. There are more sophistication that has taken place through all these problems. Have things developed from that time? Yes, it did. And the regulatory authorities are becoming more and more, of course, stronger in terms of the requests. They're following up with banks, talking to the banks daily. There is the dialogues, there are meetings. It's much more. With the crisis, things have developed also. The dialogues are more. The CMA is there. You have more discussions with them. Even the issuance of the bonds, whether it is part of your Tier 1, Tier 2, things have changed. But do I expect any bank to fall? No. That I doubt it. History has proven it has never happened, and I doubt it will happen because Kuwait has the capability and the money, and they can support the system if in case there is a situation. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you some of the quotations of stories, actual life. In 2003, I remember by the end of the year in December, when we looked at the financial figures, and we went for discussion for the financial figures later with the central bank, many banks at that time had ratios for loans to deposits ratio at the level of 115, 120, 125. These figures are maybe already available in some of the banks in UAE, for example, let's say as a country, because of the expansion, the construction, whatever you name it. And then we asked ourselves internally, when we talk among ourselves as management, how much you can go forward? I mean, you can go up to 140, 150%. That will be hilarious. There's something wrong. I mean, this is basic banking. Central bank at that time, they came in and they said, each bank has to think about it. When can you reduce this level to, for example, 80%? Get me a scenario. You need 6 months, 1 year, you let me know. From here, you started to see, because even the crisis was not there at that time, but that was like something boiling through, and they saw it coming. They tried their level best to monitor with every bank, and there are other rules and regulations that came through. Maybe some of the bankers will tell you, they might be a little bit tough, they might be a little bit stronger. But I personally speak from my own personal experience. Sometimes it's better to have a regulatory authority which is, looking and seeing and monitoring, better than you don't have somebody who's watching what's happening. Can problems happen? Mistakes happen? Every system has drawbacks. Investment companies were affected with the crisis for several reasons. We will not be talking about it. It will take time. But it was there. So that was a hiccup in the system. People didn't see it. Regulatory authorities didn't see it. It was there. The balance sheet was growing. Everything was happening. And then suddenly with the crisis outside, liquidity levels have been shrinking. no more borrowing. You cannot borrow. If you borrow, it will be extremely expensive, or you have to present some collateral which you don't have on hand. So situation was upside down. Can another crisis happen which affect? Yeah, people are expecting another crisis to happen. Yes, when we look at economists and you read in the news, you watch people speaking, they're expecting in the emerging markets and they're expecting in Europe. Another problem, Germany has been taking on its shoulders many of the issues, how long they can take it. So there are lots of talks, what could happen? Can a crisis happen in the Middle East again? It can happen, yeah, of course. Real estate prices have been expanding in many countries in the GCC. Prices are not the true value of what's happening actually on the ground. Stock market has been sometimes up, and then now in the last 2 weeks we have seen a huge drop, not a normal drop in UAE, Saudi Arabia, and also in Kuwait to a lesser extent, but it is there.